The Nigerian Civil War was fought between the Nigerian government and the Biafran minority breakaway state from 1967 to 1970, and during the war the Nigerian government systematically starved the Biafran population through a blockade. Foreign support for Biafra was limited primarily to Israel, South Africa, Rhodesia, and France, while Nigeria had the backing of the Soviet Union, the United Arab Republic, and soft support from Britain due to oil agreements. Other countries provided little aid to either belligerent, but these are just the main ones. Soviet ground troops and jets were deployed to support Nigeria in their operations against Biafra, where the Soviets said that they, quote, understood that Nigeria had to prevent separatism at all costs, which is code for the USSR committed a ton of massacres, genocide, and ethnic cleansing in the 1920s and 30s, and were prepared to vouch for Nigeria doing the exact same thing. The Johnson administration chose to keep the United States neutral, but the Nixon administration from 1969 onwards provided calls for peace and humanitarian aid to Biafra. The main point is that Biafra was relatively isolated regarding international support and hired mercenaries to both provide humanitarian relief and to play a highly combative role in the war. I already made a video about the mercenaries who fought for Biafra in the Nigerian Civil War and recommend that you check it out for further information on them, as this video is just an overview of the Nigerian Civil War as a whole and not about the mercenaries who had a pretty awesome story to tell. Now with that, let's get into the course of the war. On May 30th, 1967, Emeka Ojukwu officially seceded the eastern region of Biafra and proclaimed the new Biafran Republic against Nigeria. Ojukwu managed to assemble a 3,000-man guerrilla force to defend Biafra's front lines, and in early July of 1967, Nigerian President Gowon ordered the Nigerian Army High Command to regain control of the eastern region. On July 2nd, Nigeria launched Operation Unicord to invade the northern sectors of Biafra, where 6 major Biafran cities were captured by the Nigerian forces. For 10 days, the Nigerian army fought its way southward and managed to capture 6 towns, while also forcing the defending Biafran troops to retreat in mass disarray. Many Biafran soldiers complained of malaria, headache, and other ailments. Thousands of Biafran civilians fled their homes in fear of being massacred by the Nigerian soldiers and headed for the Biafran capital of Enugu. The Midwest invasion lasted from August 9th to September 20th, 1967, and was codenamed Operation Torch, and was where, on August 9th, 3,000 Biafran soldiers led by Victor Banjo crossed the River Niger Bridge into Asaba, Nigeria. Upon reaching the city of Agbor, the Biafrans split up, with 12th Battalion moving west, capturing Benin City and Ore. The 18th Battalion swung south, taking 3 towns, while the 13th Battalion headed north for 3 other towns. Simultaneously, a plot to capture the Midwestern governor at his home in Benin failed. Nevertheless, the Biafrans met virtually no resistance and seized the entire Midwest region in less than 12 hours. Plans were drawn up for 12th Battalion to continue its advance to Lagos in Ibadan. However, there was a crippling delay due to arguments between Ojukwu and Banjo on whom to appoint as the governor of the Midwest region, and it would not be until September 19th that the Republic of Benin was then established in the occupied territory. The Biafran situation then rapidly deteriorated following a Nigerian attack by the 2nd Division at Ore, by forcing the Biafrans to immediately retreat. In a large pincer movement, another Nigerian force headed south from Onitsha towards Benin as the 3rd Marine Commando Division landed at Owerri and promptly took Ugali and Sapele. Benin was then taken in a 3-pronged attack from the north, west, and south, which met very little resistance. Nigerian troops then entered Benin on September 20th, ending the Republic's 24-hour lifespan. Biafran troops were then able to retreat and fled across the Niger River Bridge into Biafra again, destroying it afterwards. Those that were cut off abandoned from their weaponry and uniforms and blended into the civilian population until it was safe for them to return east. The Biafran retreat from Ore is considered to be a massive turning point in the war. Enugu was the capital city of Biafra, and after the Midwest invasion, the Nigerians were burning for revenge on the city, and they began their advance there on September 12th. Biafran forces attempted to slow them down in counterattacks, but within a few weeks the Nigerian forces had reached Milliken Hill and concentrated their forces there. Federal artillery began bombarding the city on September 26th, while the Nigerian Air Force conducted mass heavy air raids. Ojukwu pledged to not abandon the city, but the Biafrans began evacuating on October 3rd. The Nigerian forces attacked the following day, occupying the city with minimal resistance, while Ojukwu narrowly escaped. Many Nigerians hoped that Enugu's capture would then convince the Biafran people to not support secession and end the whole charade of separatism. While its loss did destabilize the Biafran war effort, Ojukwu relocated his government to Umuahia, and the Biafran people just kind of rallied around him. The First Battle of Onitsha then took place from October 4th to the 12th, and during the battle the Nigerians bombarded the city for 8 days and sent 5,000 men across a river in an amphibious landing, which met very stubborn resistance. The Nigerian 2nd Division managed to seize control over Onitsha for less than a day, before being absolutely destroyed by Biafran soldiers. On November 19th, Soviet and Egyptian MiG-17 systematically bombed the Biafran civilian population out of spite for losing the battle. And during this battle, from the period of October 5th to the 7th, the Nigerian security forces committed the Asaba massacre, where over 1,000 Biafrans were mass murdered. Operation Tiger Claw immediately followed the disastrous Battle of Onitsha on October 17th until the 19th, where Nigeria captured one of Biafra's major ports, which is considered to be a major loss to the Biafrans due to the Nigerian blockade. On January 2, 1968, the Nigerians launched the Second Battle of Onitsha, and during the battle, whenever the Nigerians attacked, Biafran Major Achuzi would counterattack, which managed to hold off Nigerian troops 22 kilometers outside of Onitsha. Now, despite this fierce resistance, on March 20th, the Nigerian 2nd Division marched through Abagana and finally reached Onitsha. The final battle would last less than 24 hours, and although the Nigerians were forced to pay a heavy casualty price, they managed to capture Onitsha while the Biafran 11th Division retreated. The invasion of Port Harcourt also occurred from March 8th to May 24th and resulted in Biafra's complete loss of any access to the sea. Despite all of these losses, Biafra decided that comeback started on March 31st with the Abagana ambush, where a convoy consisting of 106 vehicles belonging to the Nigerian 2nd Division transporting 6,000 troops as well as armor from Onitsha to Enugu was ambushed and decimated in the town of Abagana by a small unit of Biafran soldiers led by Major Jonathan Uchendu. Homemade rocket missiles were then launched by the Biafrans at a tanker truck carrying gasoline, which caused an enormous explosion and destroyed many of the convoy's armored vehicles and killed a large number of Nigerian troops. 350 tons of Nigerian army equipment were destroyed or captured by Biafran soldiers. After the rocket attack, the Biafran soldiers opened fire on the convoy with small arms and killed a total of 58 to 5,900 Nigerians compared to very light Biafran casualties. On August 24th, 2 Nigerian battalions and their Soviet advisors crossed the Imo River bridge, began making their way towards the city of Owerri. The Biafran 4th Commando, under the Welsh mercenary Major Taffy Williams, threw themselves headfirst against the Nigerian attack. For 3 days, light machine gun fire and rapid rifle fire did not stop, and neither side gave an inch until the Biafrans ran out of ammo and were forced to retreat to Aba. Nigerians then began shelling the city upon entering, where they met brutal close-quarters combat. Surrounding the jungles, they were littered with mines and Biafrans. Nigerian forces were completely annihilated, and the Biafran victory is known as Operation OAU, and also saw the recapture of 2 major cities, as well as now the vocal support and weapon shipments from French President Charles de Gaulle. During the same time, on September 17, 1968, after the successful attacks on Aba and Owerri, the Nigerian 3rd Marine Division under General Benjamin Adikule made their way towards the Biafran capital, only to be intercepted by a fierce Biafran defensive position, and a bloody battle between both sides lasted 14 days before the 3rd Marine Division retreated to Owerri on October 1st. The siege of Owerri then took place from October 15, 1968 until April 25, 1969, where directly after Operation OAU, Biafra besieged the city and made use of their mercenary air force nicknamed the Biafran Babies to destroy Nigerian supplies and save all Biafran POWs from being executed by the Nigerians on March 31st. Owerri was a major victory for the Biafrans because their victory opened up telephone lines, enhanced road telecommunications, and showed that with stiff resistance, Biafra could defeat Nigerian forces. However, things would start to plummet for Biafra with Operation Hiroshima, where on November 15, 1968, Rolf Steiner was ordered to retake Onitsha and attempted to slow the Nigerian advances. Popular Belgian mercenary Mark Goossens was killed together with most of his men in a suicidal attack against a well-dug-in Nigerian position. By the time of the offensive had been abandoned on November 29th, over half of 4th Commando Brigade had been killed, and 4th Commando Brigade was like the special forces and the best of the best within the Biafran security forces. In December, Steiner was then forced to leave the country, and command of 4th Commando was then transferred over to Taffy Williams. Now, during the duration of the war, the blockade of Biafra was starving the entire population and created a massive humanitarian crisis, and is considered genocide by the Nigerians, as 3 to 4 million Biafrans were starved to death during the course of the Civil War. The response was the Biafra airlift, which is the largest humanitarian and civilian airlift since the Berlin blockade and Berlin airlift. A ton of support came from the Nixon administration's messaging to the American public, who wanted to do something about the Biafran situation which they were seeing on their televisions. Meanwhile, the Nigerians, who were backed by the Soviets, claimed that genocide and starvation in Biafra was fake and that the airlift was just a ploy to send weapons. From March 27th to April 22nd, 1969, Nigeria conducted Operation Leopard, which captured the Biafran capital city. In late May 1969, a large force of Nigerians arrived downtown Oguta. A large gun battle then ensued and ended with the retreat of Nigerian forces and over 500 dead on both sides. Nigerian reinforcements came on July 1969 with over 30 tanks and over 10,000 men. They surrounded the city and began shelling it. Over 30% of the city's population fled, with over 2,200 civilians killed or wounded in the crossfire. The Biafrans managed to keep Oguta under their control for another 3 months, but lost it when the Nigerians invaded the city in full force on October 9th. Even though Oguta was captured by the Nigerians, they were unable to capture the city of Owerri. The war then came to an end in 1970 with Operation Tailwind, which was the final battle where 120,000 Nigerians decisively defeated Biafra in January. The operation took place in the towns of Owerri and Uli, both of which were captured by Nigerian forces. The operation ended when General Ojukwu fled to Ivory Coast, and then President of Biafra Philip Effiong surrendered to Nigeria's president. In the aftermath of the Nigerian Civil War, a further 2 to 4.5 million people were displaced, with 500,000 fleeing abroad. And that is the story of the Nigerian Civil War. Did you know about it before this video? Let me know in the comments, and I'd also like to apologize for my many mispronunciations throughout this video. And be sure to check out my video on mercenaries who fought for Biafra and for more on them, as this video was primarily a summary of the Nigerian Civil War. And thank you for watching.